Live with Bash in the Brain, post Willie's Mexico retreat.
We're not live.
No, we're not live, but, that's what they do for, Saturday Night Live. I guess it is, right?
Yeah.
I've never watched it once in my life.
Live. You never watched Saturday Night Live? It used to be good back in the day, and then, I don't know, it sucked in like the last 10 years.
I've seen clips from it over the years, but I've never once just sat down and watched. I also go to bed at like 9:30 every day for the past decade.
Oh, it was my when I was a kid. It was my routine. I was like, Saturday night. I ain't missing Saturday Night Live. Kind of a quiet week in college wrestling. I just got back from a trip in Cancun, and my sister got me a new mug, which I'm really excited about. But I was in Cancun for a music festival. I never take a vacation, and ever. I never go anywhere other than wrestling stuff. But I did, and I happened to do it at a very busy time of year. Busy, coming off a busy week, coming off an Ironman, coming off of CKLV. But the actual week I was gone was kind of slow. Want to run it down a little bit? We'll run down the few things that actually happened this week on a slower week, and then we'll preview some of the big stuff coming up, especially Journeyman or Collegiate Duals.
I was glad that it was a kind of quiet week because I got to work in, had Josh Barr on the podcast yesterday, had Bear Claw on last week. Both shows are doing great. People are loving it. So I didn't
get a chance to watch yet.
They're
didn't
good.
Get a chance to
They're
watch.
both really good.
Got home last night. Well, 2:00 in the morning. Slept for a little bit and cranked out a lot of National Wrestling Hall of Fame duels. Bishop McCourt will be there, number 5 and number 6. McCourt, Del Barton, Stillwater, Edmond North. Great field again. High school wrestling's crazy in the team rankings. It's never been this wonky. I mean, there's like 6, 7 teams that have a legit path to number 1 at the end of the year. It is never that way. It's usually one team that's really happening this year and one of the prep schools, and that's it. And they usually don't see anybody head-to-head. This year, 6, 7, 8 teams with a bunch of head-to-head dates, some of them multiple head-to-heads, and between Ironman and duels and National Hall of Fame duels and Beast of the East this weekend and maybe Doc B. It's really a high school national circuit. It's pretty neat. And I love the fact that there's not like 1 or 2 dominant teams and everybody else. It's really fun.
Since you're mentioning high school and we're going to talk what happened this weekend, we didn't get to talk about East and Nazerth dual ending.
Yeah. So if you missed it, East and Nazerth, it used to be, it's a very heated rivalry. And it used to be, top 10 teams in the country. Now Easton's been down for a little bit. A lot of that has to do with kids transferring to like private schools and stuff like that. But back home, it still is a huge deal. Easton, Nazareth, Northampton, Bethlehem Catholic. Those are big duels, and Easton probably best known recently for like Jordan Oliver. Nazareth probably best known for like Sammy Sasso. Their schools wrestled each other, and Easton got a tech to end the duel, and they win by 1 point. But the Easton wrestler went like this and put his headgear back, threw his headgear back to
be very clear, he went
bench
like this if you're watching on YouTube. Underhand.
Yeah, he didn't throw it, he didn't celebrate, he just tossed it to his coach. Team point, which is always funny because a team point and then it's tied and it goes to criteria, and the first criteria is team point. So it's basically 2, right? And Easton loses. And to make matters worse, the context was the official that called it was a state champion from Nazareth. And his name's Mark Getz. I've known him. He was a few years ahead of me, probably like 3 years ahead of me. I knew him my whole life. I think it was a terrible call. I consider him a friend. I like the guy. I just think it was a bad call, bad in the moment. I don't know. I don't know how he thought, what he thought in retrospect, but it was a bad call. I don't think you do that. And
you got to stop deducting team points. You find a different way.
Yeah.
Find them. Do whatever you want. Stop deducting team points. Could you imagine if in the NFL, if a wide receiver gets a touchdown and celebrates and they penalize and say the Chiefs lose a point?
What if the score was 21-19 and Harrison Butker goes out for a field goal and he kicks the field goal, and now it's 22-21, but the excessive celebration, team point, it's 21-21, tiebreaker. If you had a team point deducted, you lose. That's what we're talking about here.
It's so silly. They got to stop. And again, this wasn't a throw, and sorry to beat this dead horse. It's just one of those things you see, and you're like, come on. Like, it wasn't a throw. It wasn't out of anger. It was literally a toss back to the corner. Literally in the rule book, it wasn't a violation based on the verbiage of the rule.
I mean, shout out to the people that put the rule book together, which pretty much said explicitly, like, you don't have to call it if it's not egregious. Like, use your judge. They're basically saying, don't be a fuddy-duddy. And they were a fuddy-duddy.
If it's not glaringly egregious, don't call it.
Not, maybe they didn't listen to Martin's videos. All
right, so what else happened this weekend? You got some notes.
I got some notes. Let's run through them. The cliff notes quick, and we'll maybe hit on some of the bigger stuff, although there wasn't a whole lot of bigger stuff. Army beat Morgan State. Rutgers over Clarion, and I think Rutgers had 3 or 4 duels this weekend, and I think one thing that stuck out was Dean Peterson killed everybody. And I know they weren't the biggest names, but the fact that he's putting up 19, 20 points each match shows that he's back in a good place. He was injured for a while. Ohio State in a really interesting match with Pittsburgh, 20-17 over the Panthers. It started off hot for Ohio State. McCrone wins, Bazakis wins, Mendez wins, D'Amelio wins, Gallagher wins, right? So there's 5 straight wins, but then Kessler beats Sasso. Augustine beats Ethan Burden, the true freshman. Reese Heller beats Shoemate because Rogotsky was up at 97. Rogotsky gets beat by Max Stout. And then Pitzer wins over Swenson. Swenson in because no Feldman. So it started off good for Ohio State, but then in the back half they had some guys out, and it got really dicey back there. No Feldman. No. Who we missing up top there?
No Karchla. And in turn, no
Luke Geog.
Mm-hmm.
So Rogotsky was up, no Luke Geog. It's interesting. I mean, I don't peddle in rumors, but there's a lot of chatter that Rocco
there's a lot
Welsh
of steam.
There's a lot of steam. That Rocco Welsh is leaving. Now that doesn't affect them like this year, but that would be a huge loss. You got a national finalist with 3 years remaining leaving. If that is indeed true, I have not heard that from like a person or persons that's like, yeah, this is definitely happening. But I've heard it from enough places that my ears are up. Right? Like
it's one of those things that there's enough different smoke from different fires that kind of connect the dots that make it and then I saw Minio tweet it out, and it's funny, a lot of the responses sometimes when Minio puts stuff out that others maybe won't yet, Minio's kind of like, he does what Minio wants to do, and I think you have that in all sports. But it's interesting because sometimes when Pat does that, you get people who just dismiss it. Like, okay, whatever, Pat. Like, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. It's interesting how much the comments were like, oh, I believe this, and if this happens, like, this is detrimental to Ohio State. Like, a lot of instant what if for Ohio State if that does happen. Yeah. And that would be crazy. That would be a huge...
Well, I can tell you this. I don't talk about stuff that is just out there normally. Um, but there is a lot of smoke, and I know for sure there's some ruffled feathers. To what degree? That's not for me to say, but I mean, I can't tell you because I didn't talk to Rocco directly. Um, but the source of the disgruntledness, I guess, is from what I'm told, it's kind of not on the same page. Like Rocco, you're wrestling. No, you're red shirt. No, you're going 74. No, you're not. You're going to red shirt. No, you're going 84. Hey, you're going to wrestle off. No, you're not going to wrestle off. Hey, we're going to use this guy, not this guy. Yeah, do this, don't do. And that's what I'm told. That is what I'm told is the source of the frustration. Now, I believe from the person I talked to about that told me this, I believe that's 100% true. But on the continuum of how upset about it Rocco is, I don't know. I don't know if Rocco's like, yeah, that could have been handled better, or this is BS. I'm out. Right? I don't know
Yeah.
where that lies.
I will say this too, because sometimes I think what happens in this sport, and this is definitely one reason why some people don't put stuff out, is something like this can happen where there's absolutely, and Pat's definitely getting smarter and smarter with what he says because he puts it more in a question format. Like, could Rocco Welch be heading out west? And guess what? Sometimes, like Willie's saying, it could absolutely be the case, and then things can get resolved. It doesn't mean there is no substance to it. Things can potentially still get resolved, and then maybe he doesn't go anywhere. It sounds like that's not going to be the case, but time will tell.
Yeah. I posted on a message board the other day, like, Minio does indeed get things wrong, and he does put it out there before most people are comfortable going on record with it. But 90% of the time, he is right. And part of that 10% is of being wrong is there was something going on, but it got worked out.
Yep.
You know? So when he says something, a lot of people hate on him. When he says something, there's probably a little kernel of truth there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, all right, keep going on the rundown. Sorry, that was Ohio State Pitt 2017.
So that was, Ohio State, Pittsburgh. You know, Pittsburgh's always a really tough out, really balanced, well-coached team. But, like, heading into it, it wasn't one that we were like, hey, this is a sneaky good duel. But it turned out to be a sneaky good duel.
Yep.
Oklahoma State dominated in Bedlam 35-3. The Sooners' only win was at 149 where Willie McDougald beat Carter Young. And, you know, McDougald has this sort of style. He's a kid from your area, Buffalo. And when he came out when he was a true freshman, I believe, he had some flashes. But he kind of wrestles a style of, like, back up, and sting you, or back up, and score, like, only when you need to. And he did that with Carter Young, and he did that with Gabe Willishell, who beat Carter Young in their duel a week or two ago. And so Willie McDougald's a really intriguing dark horse kind of guy, although the recipe for success is not typically, you know, hang on for dear life or score late or work the clock, you know. So, but Spratley won. Reese Whitcraft over Belton with a pin. Tegan Jameson over Moshe Schwartz. Fish won. Amin won over Piccolo. Hamidian a close one over Gavin Sachs. Gavin Sachs really solid. Plot majored Parker. Serber over Bradley Hill, who's down at 97. Hendrickson over Mora. That was it for Friday.
By the way, Spratley is still very much in this thing. Spratley had one 5-2 loss to undefeated Matt Ramos, and I think that the Spratley hype train, you know, was getting a lot of momentum early in the season. I'm still bullish on the kid. He beat Caleb Smith 2-0. He beat Brendan McCrowan 3-0. His only loss is a 5-2 close decision loss to, in my book, the number one wrestler at the weight.
Well, I thought that Spratley's public perception this season was bipolar. It was way overrated. It was way overstated. At one point, this guy's going to win a national title. He loses to Ramos. Oh, he's not a factor. Like, take it easy,
Yeah.
guys. Yeah, he's a contender. He was a contender, but not like a lock. But people were like, that's the guy. He's going to win. And that was overboard. And after he lost to Ramos, oh, he's not a guy. He's not a dude. That's overboard too. So, yeah. Saturday, Buffalo beat Kent State. But, there's a kid from Kent State at 49. It's pretty tough. Billy Meisner. Watch out for him. Like, as a sneaky, could like maybe pick off some guys. And also, if you're in fantasy league, a lot of those MAC guys who are really solid score a lot of fantasy points. Buffalo 20, Kent State 18. Rutgers beat Gardner-Webb 32-6. The news here was TK Davis of Gardner-Webb beat Dylan Chauver 11-6. Odd, kind of an outlier result. Rutgers did have some other backups in. Gardner-Webb over Buffalo 27-11. Rutgers beat Kent State 42-3. Joey Fungaro beat Jordan Decatur. Meisner beat Andrew Clark. Another good win for Meisner. Gardner-Webb over Kent State. Northern over Kearney. How about Nebraska? Kearney wrestles a D2 school. Wrestles Northern Iowa and Nebraska back to back. They are not scared to mess with some big dogs. Cal Baptist 32-7 over Clarion. Not that surprising, but what was surprising is the next day, Cal Baptist 18-15 over West Virginia. And it's like a surprising result, but when you look at the box, it's not that surprising. The big one was Eli Griffith beating Jordan Titus 5-0, but there wasn't a whole lot of other upsets in there. Interesting. That's how duels can sometimes be kind of weird. Binghamton over Long Island. Penn State over Wyoming 54-0. Wyoming was missing Volk and somebody else. What'd you think of Penn State? I mean, they look great, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had Barr on, and he was kind of saying, it's like once everybody started getting pins, you kind of had to follow suit, and just everybody started going for the pins. I mean, you had, I don't think, a single match that was not bonus. You had 20-5, 18-3, first minute pin in 427, 16-3 major, 15-0 tech, pin in 2 minutes, pin in 2 minutes, pin in 2 minutes, 20-3. I mean, an absolutely mollywhopping as Cal got his 250th career dual win.
Bakersfield over Michigan State 21-14, and AJ wrestled.
What do you make of that?
I don't know.
Coincidental that he missed CKLV?
I don't know. It's just a real bummer. Everybody wanted to see it. And AJ likes the limelight. He likes the spotlight. I don't think he's scared of the spotlight. But
I know. That's why you would think
I wouldn't. Yeah.
AJ Ferrari he doesn't take me as somebody who's trying to protect a rank or a seed.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, he rather, I think, have the publicity, the awareness, create content. We were talking about that beforehand. One of the, tell signs he wasn't competing was the fact that he wasn't creating content and marketing the event. So, really weird. But glad he's back, at least.
Yeah, glad he's back. American over Davidson. Iowa State over North Dakota State. And Iowa State is hurting right now. They ran out Perryman, who lost 6-2 to Tristan Doherty. It was Osmani Diverson at 33. Cuban, who beat Kyle Berwick. So no Evan Frost. Jacob Frost went at 41. And Tech Kalen March. So Echamania sounds like he's really hurt, man. Sounds like it's a legit injury.
Well, shout out
for a lot of reasons.
So I had this in the notes for later, but we can get to it now because this happened I think just after our last show. But I love Dresser's transparency. He came right out.
Almost every week.
He comes out right away and says Echamendi is out for 4 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Tells us how long he's out for. Tells us what he's out with. Bastida
it's
is
an
out.
Ankle?
High ankle sprain. Yep. And then Bastida is out until at least January 1, he said. And they're considering the medical red shirt if his knee doesn't start to feel better, which I take that as he's medical red shirting.
Medical red shirt.
They're opening the door. If you've listened to this podcast, we've been saying for a month how many seniors.
Do you want to miss like a month and a half of the season and then try to come back and perform the best that you can? Or do you want a red shirt, have a full year to train, and then wrestle in a field that loses Gable, Kirkfleet, and Hendrickson?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, so it might be a little down for Iowa State, but they're still young, and if they, depending on what HeadgearGate does. But by the way, HeadgearGate has another year. He has a year that people don't realize, is what I'm told. He's going to get another year. Like, he does have another year next year. Everybody knows he has next year, right? But he has another one, which people aren't aware of. Chittum had a mixer pin. Rojas lost to Bowden Greenlee. Aiden Riggins wins. Fernando Villasqueza wins. Tayshawn Glover beat Christian Carroll 8-5. Tayshawn Glover sort of came out of nowhere a couple years ago. He's from North Carolina. He placed at Super 32, and I'm going to be honest, I know everybody in high school. Like, I know almost every name that enters Super 32. Tayshawn Glover placed 8th a couple years ago. Now, he didn't beat anybody. He had a really weird path and, like, fortunate to get in there, but I was like, who? I ain't never heard of this kid. And
Carroll now 5-5 on the year, by the way, which I was kind of anticipating a stronger, more dominant version of Carroll leaning out, coming down to 97. It seemed like weight wasn't going to be a factor as far as making the weight. He came out in those first 3 matches. He beats Nick Stemmet 11-7 and then gets 3 majors in a tech. Or he majored and then got majored by Buchanan, and it was like,
I think
he's lost 4 out of his last 6 now.
Well, but it's been a really good schedule. I'm not saying that Tayshawn Glover is one of those that you would think he would lose to, but he's and Tayshawn Glover's the same class as him, right? So it's not like I don't know. But Carroll is young. He's coming down adjusting to a new way, a hefty, about completely changing body composition. And he's a freshman. And like...
Yeah, I guess aside from the
style is different too, right? The style is different.
I guess apart from this last loss, Carroll got majored by Buchanan, got teched by Cardenas, lost 2-0 to Luke Serber, and then has a win and a loss against Wyatt Volker at the Cliff Keen.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think preseason... I don't know what expectations were for him. Sometimes there's kids that come in and they were ranked 1 or 2 or 5 in their class, and they're like, they get a red shirt season under their belt. They're ready for it. Like, they're ready to be a podium threat. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they need time to develop. And I think Christian Carroll is one of those guys. I didn't, if you noticed in Crystal Ball, I didn't have Carroll very high.
No, you had him in Blood Round, so you didn't have him AAing. He also moved around an awful lot. I mean, he committed to Penn, then Oklahoma State, then Iowa State. I mean, the kid had 3 commitments within like... He
originally committed to Illinois.
That's right. Penn. It was Illinois, flipped to Penn, then Oklahoma State, now Iowa State. That's a lot of different... A little all over the place.
Cal Baptist over West Virginia, we already talked about. All right, that was the weekend. Not a whole heck of a lot of earth-shattering results. But, you got some notes here, too. We talked about a couple of them. Noah Certain retires. Yeah, if you missed it, Noah Certain retired. Had some lingering issues, just couldn't keep up with it. And frankly, I don't like to see anybody go. I don't like to see anybody hurt. I like to see them finish out their careers, but be smart about it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be walking around like a gimp for the next 60 years because you wanted one last ride. I mean, I know it's a tough habit to break. You love it. You love it. You've been doing it your whole life. But I'm actually like proud of a kid who knows when to say when, you know?
Yep.
You also having Spencer Lee, David Carr, Joey McKenna, Jay Ella competing in Kazakhstan this weekend. Is that a rankings tournament or just a tournament?
No, just a
That's not a
random
rankings
tournament. No,
Yeah, it's
not.
still December.
Yep, not a ranking tournament. Um, they're just. I want to say McKenna won this last year. McKenna and Burrows, I believe, both went to this last year. So cool great to see Spencer Lee's back on the mat. I love that David Carr is competing. This is going to be broadcasted on a Kazakhstan YouTube page. I tweeted out the link. I'll probably tweet it out again, but this is going to be some old school follow international wrestling, like not easy to watch.
Have you noticed that
The time difference is insane. Like, we're recording this, it's 5:30 Eastern right now. It's 3:30 in the morning in Kazakhstan.
yeah. I mean, 1 year Worlds were there. I was there, but like for people that were back here, I mean that's a world away. Have you noticed that like there seems to be a lot more people streaming wrestling?
No, I haven't really noticed that.
No, I think Beg Wrestling is
I
streaming
saw
something this
that.
weekend.
I saw they're streaming some duels in Florida, Orlando or something.
Yeah, I mean Division 1 duels, you know, that's cool. This Kazakh YouTube thing. A couple weeks ago, there was a Russia Iran duel that was streamed by some place I'd never heard of. I don't know. It seems to be a lot more people streaming stuff, which is good as long as it's streamed, you know.
Hey, one thing I didn't have in here. Did you see me? And I went on a mini rant because I understood what happened really quickly, but it is still so dumb. Did you see Amit Elor got snubbed? And I'll put it in air quotes.
Yeah. I saw that, but I knew what it was.
Well, so here's what happened. UWW puts out their Wrestlers of the Year, and they say, "Congrat to," drawing a blank on her name, Busi Tusun, yeah, from Turkey. Mm-hmm. Congrats, Women Wrestler of the Year. And my knee-jerk reaction was, what? I did a willy. Like, she lost to Amit Elor, who was undefeated, who became the youngest American to ever win gold in wrestling, and you give it to her. And then so I started digging a little deeper because I'm like, this makes no sense. Once you go and read the article, it turns out that these are just based on the points.
Right.
So
Correct.
Why not just say the year-end point leader or whatever you want to call it? But putting your graphic out that says our Women's Wrestler of the Year, I understand you want to incentivize senior-level wrestlers. That ain't it. I don't think that you're going to get our stars to go compete because they want to be in the running for, I'm sure there's maybe a minimal nominal prize, if anything, for that. But it's like,
no, listen, I think it's significant.
Is it?
I think it's significant money.
I'm gonna have to go and look now.
To me, I'm not up in arms about it. I mean, it's just a semantic argument. You got 5 million different languages that they're trying to address, and they word, at least in English, it's worded poorly. Wrestler of the Year. I mean, we have a set of awards in the United States: Player of the Year, Wrestler of the Year, you know, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive. We are used to that terminology, meaning the most outstanding, the one who had the best year. And to them, it's denotative. It's not who was the most successful. It's who had the most points, and it's just a semantic thing.
It is, but if nothing else, you should have two different categories. Have a point leader, which listen.
You're missing the point. It's not about It's just that it's lost in translation.
I don't think when you say the women's wrestler of the year is lost in semantics. That's
Yes,
poor.
it is.
That's poor communication, and that's calling the person who scored the most points at ranking events.
Okay, if they called the award the Balloon d'Or, and that went to the person that had the most points, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Correct. But the fact that they
which means it's literally a semantic argument.
I think
if the argument is because of how it's worded, then it's a semantic argument.
Maybe it's 100% mislabeled. It's glaringly egregious.
I agree that it's glaringly egregious.
Okay,
but
so
they
maybe
should word it better.
Correct. Listen, again, I do think it's a good thing to reward and incentivize people for showing up. She
100%,
showed up,
and I think it's now. I should know this. I don't know what the value is of the prizes, but I'm pretty sure they're significant. And the fact that if they are significant, then it not only you win an award, but you get a monetary incentive as well, and that should encourage participation. And if it doesn't, then screw the guys and girls that didn't participate. The UWW is doing on their end all they can to incentivize participation of the top stars. And I think David won it a year or two ago, but like nobody, it didn't stick out like a sore thumb because David won everything.
Yeah.
It only stuck out this time because you're like, wait, she didn't even win it.
Right. And she got beat by somebody who was undefeated. That's what I'm like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
So it was a mini rant. I understand. You should have put that in the
I think maybe, man, I want to say around.
It's not. I remember posting it last year or the year before. I remember posting the amounts. When I looked at the article, in the articles.
Here it is.
Is that from this year?
This is from 2023. 390,000 Swiss francs.
What the hell? How many Shroot bucks is that?
Hold on. That's the total prize money.
Let me see. I know I tweeted it out last year. Okay, a total of $10,000. This was from 2022. So assume it's somewhat close.
Here, look at this. Look at this. The Bureau approved a total prize money of 150,000 Swiss francs for the Wrestler of the Year. That's significant. That's like $250,000. Hold on.
No, it is not. No, it is not. There's no. They gave Thomas Gilman.
It's 168,000.
No, the number one guy did not get that. Gilman got $5,000.
He did.
Gilman got $5,000 2 years ago. You're telling me they upped it from $5,000 to $250,000 to each athlete in each weight? No, that's total prize money.
I'm not saying that. You're going off on a rant again.
What?
The single wrestler of the year. Not each guy, each weight. Not the wrestler of the year, each weight. The wrestler of the year. One human.
I don't know if that's right.
I'm reading it on their website.
Send me it. That just doesn't sound right. You're telling me that they're giving. So you're telling me the Borough is giving $750,000 to 3 wrestlers? No way.
Oh, my bad. Hold on.
There's just
terrible. This is a terrible segment.
This is an amazing segment.
The Bureau also approved a total prize money of 150,000 Swiss francs for the best wrestler of the year. This is where I messed up. I didn't continue. The award is given to 30 wrestlers, 10 in each style.
There you go. So it's similar because it's
168 divided by 30. Yeah, it's like $5,000.
Correct. Because a couple years ago, Gilman got $5,000. Dake $3,000. Burrows $5,000. David Taylor only got $2,000. He finished third. Snyder $5,000. So yeah, it's not that.
They should up it. They gotta up it.
Silly.
They gotta up it. USA Wrestling gotta up their ante too, boy. We're making money hand over fist.
I don't know if we ever talked about it, but these new transfer rules, I haven't read up on them fully. Did you read about them? Because we haven't talked about it.
Yeah, it's freaking. I saw some people, including Minio, going bonkers over it. But number one, it's really nebulous. Number two, it's not going to. It's going to come into play, and that stinks at to some degree. But it's not going to happen that often. It's nebulous in the fact that country A can require country B to pay this and to pay that and to pay that, but they don't necessarily have to. Like, if I don't know, there's some guys that are leaving U.S. and going to other countries. The U.S. ain't making a stink about it, but like they would if Zahid did. I guarantee you that.
Well, I think that's the direction we're heading.
And I promise you, Rich Bender was leading the train on that. It's not even new legislation. It's like more like reinforced. Yeah.
Well, I think it came. From my understanding, was it was a new UWW policy, and then USA Wrestling kind of backed it along those same lines. I didn't think it was.
Yeah,
USA
it's been
Wrestling
around.
thing.
It's actually been around for a while. I didn't really understand the stink that they were making recently.
Yeah. Other news from the weekend. We didn't get to talk about it. Let's talk about it real quick. Barr and Beard, because we talked about that pretty heavily going into it, talking expectations. And again, Barr was on the podcast yesterday. Awesome interview. Go listen to that. But so Josh Barr comes out, majors Beard. What did you make of that, and what do you think that means moving forward for Barr?
I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, other than it was a really good win. I think I was most impressed. Michael Beard scores a lot. He scores a lot. And he didn't take down Barr one time, right? I don't think he had an offensive point. And so that's what stood out to me. Most of the time when Michael Beard loses, it's because I mean, he usually, even in his losses, he usually scores. But for him not to even sniff a takedown on Barr, that to me was the most impressive thing. I wasn't shocked by Barr. If you told me Josh Barr won, I would say good. You know, it's a good indication. The fact that he won and didn't even come close to giving up a score on Beard, who is notoriously good on his feet, that was the real eye-opener for me.
And the only time I actually thought the same thing, and I went back and looked, and that was Beard's problem at NCAAs last year. When he lost, it was 8-2 to Rocky Elam, 12-1 to Buchanan, 10-3 to Little. So it's funny that you take those matches and then you put Barr kind of the same result, where he didn't get to his offense and he lost 2 or 3 takedowns.
Well, I tell you, right, but go through his regular season results, and I promise you, points per match and
he scored a lot of points. Yeah,
match points and points per match, like match points. Like I scored 18 points.
Here, listen to this. I'll run through it real quick. Ready? Last season, how many points he scored? 21, 17, 18, 21, 17, 12, 18, 18, 20, 17, 18, 18, 15. Pin, 16, 12, 10. Pin, 21, 20, 21, 19, 21. Pin, 21. 6.
Yeah, for a 97 pounder. That's insane. And I remember doing a piece last year on actually, I don't think I ever published it. I did all the research on it, and I don't think I published it. Or maybe I just tweeted it. But it was like match points per match, and also team points per match. Meaning like Beard averaged like almost 5. He averaged almost a tech, right? His average match outcome was almost a tech, and that's what I'm saying. That dude puts up points, and for him not to score a point on Barr is...
He wrestled like 25 matches in a row with either a pin or double-digit points last year. It literally wasn't until an overtime win against Cardenas at EIWA's that he only scored single digits, which is wild.
We didn't talk about Cardenas. I mean, that's one of the things. We come into the show, me and Justin, and in fact, we were like, "Hey, want to do a show? Yeah. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. Let's just talk about wrestling." And so it's cool that let's just have an off subject kind of thing. Is Cardenas like? Is he your pick right now? Because he looks damn good.
Listen,
he looks damn good.
I hope Earl is listening to this. Earl, stop with AJ Ferrari right now as number 1, and put Cardenas 1, put Buchanan 2, and then put Ferrari 3. Cardenas is 8-0, 100% bonus on the year.
Why does Cardenas go? Did you say Cardenas should be 1 and Buchanan 2?
I think so, just because he's got more matches. Just 8-0 for 6-0. Although I guess Buchanan's field of win might be a little bit better. His best win's probably higher, actually.
I can get on board with one of those two. I would probably say Buchanan because he placed higher last year, but I could get on board with Buchanan 1, Cardenas 2, AJ 3.
I mean, Cardenas looks like, we sometimes talk about guys developing or jumping levels later in their career. Here's Cardenas.
It's weird. It's odd, though. It's rare.
Here's Cardenas this year. 18-0 tech, 15-0 tech, 18-1 tech, 15-0 tech, 19-4 tech, 16-1 tech, 12-0 major, a pin in the second period.
That deserves some context.
But
that's awesome numbers. But that's not against Joe Schmoes. That's including Cliff Keen.
Yeah. And by the way, it is funny because while you say it's not likely, if you look at his career, he didn't qualify for NCAAs. Or no, did he qualify, not place? I can't remember. And then he got 8th, and then he got 4th. So he has been trending better every year. But, I mean, this kind of jump to go 8-0 in the year with 100% bonus, that's why I would put him 1.
Well, I think the one thing that gets lost upon with Cardenas is most of the time when a kid goes 8th, 4th, and doing what you're doing now, you're like, okay, this kid's coming on. For some reason, I think people are sleeping on Cardenas. I'm not sure why. Because including that trajectory, he's also been really good in the summer. I mean, he's made at least 2 teams, hasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he's made a couple, I know.
Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that in. We're talking about 97 guys because people talked about Buchanan. I don't think Jacob Cardenas. I think Jacob Cardenas was looked at by the country as a 3 to 5 guy, and coming into the season. And now I look at him and say, this is a national title contender.
Absolutely. Sure. Absolutely. He's made that next jump where if he's wrestling like this, you have a hard time convincing me soundly that somebody's going to beat him. I get it, but like convincing me is going to be tough. Could Buchanan beat him? Sure. Could Ferrari? Depends where he's at. But Cardenas, you can make the argument to win the whole thing.
Listen to this. How many guys have done this that you go, oh, he's just another guy? Jacob Cardenas. U23 silver, U23 bronze, U23 silver. 3 straight years.
Yeah.
That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, he
okay, let's talk a little bit
incredible.
about and including, you have a note in here about no Elam this weekend probably. So you have Ferrari, who hasn't been around for a while. Then you have Buchanan, who's looked really good. You have Cardenas, who looked really good. And you have Elam, who's always been neck and neck. I think they split last year, Elam and Cardenas. But Elam's been dinged up and hasn't wrestled a bout yet. So, yeah, another reason why I think Cardenas is right in contention.
Yeah.
There's some things to watch tonight. Ohio State and Drexel is the only game in town. That's great because you get to, focus on teams you don't usually focus on. Tomorrow there's 2 duels: Ohio and Bloomsburg, and Purdue and Cleveland State. And then Thursday there's a couple duels: Northern Illinois, Kent State, Gardner Webb, George Mason, Northwestern, Cal Poly, Cal Baptist. But big one, and I'm going to be there: Virginia Tech at Okie State.
This is a matchup that Oklahoma State is going to absolutely run away with it. But in a duel where someone is potentially likely going to run away with it, it is a must-watch duel.
So we always talk about having our text thread, me, Bash, Fellers, and Bashada. And a couple days ago, we're texting each other about this duel, and it took a bunch of twists and turns. Because all of us were like, Oklahoma State, next topic. And then we started adding a couple things. And then we were always like, all of us were like, yeah, Tech has a real shot at this.
And even the matches they don't, or like, again, it's one of those things where Virginia Tech probably just doesn't match up good against Oklahoma State. But, I mean, you got 2 top 5 ranked matchups in there.
Yeah. Spratley, Ventresca, that's within the margins. That could go either way. I think most people would pick Spratley right now, but Ventresca is not flashy at all, but he can absolutely win this match. One of these 2 guys is an All-American, and it's not Spratley, right? So I think I would kind of lean Spratley, but I certainly think Ventresca can win. Whitcraft versus McGonigal.
Also,
McGonigal,
they should absolutely end with 25 or 74.
Yeah, I guess we get to see what kind of mentality David has. You never know if a coach is going to be like, screw that, we're starting at 25 and we're ending with heavyweight. Some coaches are that way. Some coaches are, let's do this.
It could also be where he thinks if Spratley has an advantage or a disadvantage off the scale. Because in a 3 versus 4 matchup, do you give him a little bit of extra time? Do you, Wyatt Mullen, Wyatt's probably going to major Mullen. Do you let Wyatt go out there first and get some momentum?
Mm-hmm.
Something to keep an eye on.
So Spratley, Ventresca, highly interesting. I mean, you're talking about 2 guys who are projected to podium, at least in the rankings. Whitcraft, McGonigal. Whitcraft can beat anybody at any time, I think, at least in a certain tier. And what I'm saying is, I think he could beat guys in a higher tier than him. Not that he's necessarily even as good as. He just possesses that kind of offense and go for broke stuff. And McGonigal, who we all thought really highly of, hasn't. I mean, when's the last time he wrestled? So if they don't have McGonigal, that's a real wrinkle.
It's been a month, I think.
11-15. Yeah. It's been a month. Okay. So then you go Jameson Latona, which Jameson's ranked 4 right now. Latona 13. Great matchup, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of like 25. You probably favor Jameson, but know full well that Latona can win. Tech heavy favorites at 49. Henson versus Young, but again, Young scored the first takedown at CKLV on him, right? against Henson, so that was a pretty good match. 157, Caleb Fish against Hippolito in the rankings is 12 versus 14. You probably lean Fish, but Hippolito win is certainly in play there.
Yeah, I think that's a toss-up.
165, Amin and Mac Church. Definitely the pick is Amin. The problem with having a whole ton. I pick Amin confidently in this match. However,
see, I don't.
Yeah, I do.
Half of it, but he's 7-3 on the year.
Plays it so close to the vest that he always almost handcuffs himself.
He's 7-3 on the year with what, 5 overtimes? He lost to Barr in overtime. He lost to Nico Ryuzi in overtime. He lost to Peyton Ruiz. I started reading the next line.
You said
it. He lost to Peyton Hall in overtime. So he lost, all those overtimes. Then he wins. Then he beats Bubba Wilson and Jack Thompson.
But Mac Church is not. Mac Church is not those guys.
He beat Jack Thompson 4-1 in overtime. Is Jack Thompson that much better than Mac Church?
I don't know. Good point.
I think Amin wins. It's just I wrote down would be my least confident pick simply because if you're wrestling that many close matchups, man, anything can happen.
Here's my favorite match of the duel, and I don't think that people consider it I don't think most people consider this high on their list of the best matches in this 10 weight contest. Hamidi Wolak. I think Wolak is an absolute thing. Like,
why do you think that's not everybody's number 1 or number 2 match?
Because this is why. Wolak was not a high-profile recruit. Wolak did not do much ever until last year at Columbia, and nobody knew him. They learned about him for 3 days. That's the first time they heard of him. I'm talking about most people. It was the first time they heard his name. He was from Columbia. They probably think lightning in a bottle. But no, the kid is legit. And you talk about going through an undergraduate program at an Ivy League school and all that comes with it. And now he's at Virginia Tech, which probably has, no offense to Columbia, but probably has a lot better workout partners, a lot more different feels, a lot more different looks. He's probably taken 2 grad courses that is an entirely lighter load than what he had at Columbia in his senior year. And could be focused, and he could jump levels. And if Lenny Wolak jumps levels off of a 5th or 6th place performance last year, I think this is a thing.
My 2 things about why I'm first off, I'm hopeful this match happens because we haven't seen Wolak in a month either. He hasn't wrestled since the Rutgers duel, November 22nd. He didn't wrestle
KLV? How did I miss that? Interesting.
But here, when he did wrestle,
he beat Turley pretty good, and Hamidi's coming off just a 4-0 win.
Wolak has 3 wins this year. They're all pins. His only loss was against Keegan O'Toole, 13-5 major. So it's like 3 wins, 3 pins. I mean, that guy's pretty exciting. It's gonna be fun. This is gonna be a fun match. I hope he's back for it.
Me too. I hope they're full strength. I hope McGonigal's in. I hope Wolak is in. And at 184, Dustin Plott. And whose rankings are you using here?
Intermat.
Oh, okay. I saw 3 next to Plott, and I'm like, what? But I forgot. In my brain, it's Keck Eyes and Plott. Carter came up.
I'm like, was it TJ being 25 that threw you off? I was confused.
No, it was. I spent a whole year seeing 2 next to Plott,
Yeah.
Against TJ Stewart, the Enigma. He's looked terrible. He looked incredible last March. He's looked not good this season. Let's see what version we get this week with Dustin Plot. But this Plot's a safe pick there. Serber, I mean, not the safe pick. He's who you pick right now.
Previewing that match would have been a lot different if TJ Stewart did not start the season 0-4.
Serber at 97 versus Smith or Sasso. And, coming into this year, I thought Sasso for sure. I thought Sasso, and I don't know exactly entirely what's going on with the situation. The vibe that I got from Virginia Tech staff was, yeah, we kind of think it's going to be Sasso. But now maybe not. I mean, Andy Smith has been doing really well, including, did he not beat Serber? Did he not beat Serber at CKLV? So,
well, let me look.
Looking up.
Smith beat Serber 4-3. Yep.
Right. I mean, that's incredible considering a lot of people were high on Serber, especially after he beat Munoz. People were talking about him being an AA. And Andy Smith, we're not even sure if he's a starter. Maybe he's only in there because Sasso's injured. We don't know. And then flip that script because Smith takes third at freaking CKLV and beats Serber in the process. And so, that you could be looking at a Tech win there. And then Mullen and Wyatt. Mullen, a freshman, not quite ready yet for Hendrickson, probably. So, what do you have it? You have it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have it 8-2.
No, I didn't make an official pick at 57. I mean, I guess I'll pick. Yeah, I guess I'll pick Fish. I do think that match is such a toss-up, but
that is ridiculous because Tech is so good. That lineup is nails. And you're right. It could very easily be 8-2.
But either way, that is and I'm hopeful McGonigal and Wolak are both in it. Like, this is a duel where it's like there's not a lot on. You have the spotlight. You're not, lost in a Saturday shuffle. Like, all of wrestling is going to be watching that. So that's going to be must watch. 8 p.m. Eastern.
Is there an NFL game Is there an NFL game Thursday night, or did they stop now? There is crap.
Oh.
Well,
no, because
there wasn't.
I think this might be our last week because I know we start with Saturday games 1, 4, and 8 this week. Broncos, Chargers, Bo Nix Mania Thursday night. Hey, did you? We'll stop recording for 1 second. Did you see Josh Allen this weekend? He locked in the MVP.
He's amazing. You know what I was thinking? This whole time I've kind of been a homer, because Saquon's from District 11. And I was, I want Saquon to win MVP. But what Josh Allen's doing is just incredible. And he should win MVP. But I kind of think there should be 2 MVPs. There should be, quarterback of the year.
The Balloon d'Or and the point leader?
No, I mean, a quarterback's going to win every year. How can a quarterback not win it?
I know, but what Josh Allen is doing, I don't care. But people get mad when we go off on a football tangent. Let's keep going through.
Who cares what they say?
Let's keep going through the duels. I'm gonna pull up.
So I think we're both picking Okie State, but I want to see a good duel. I hope there's some. I hope Tech makes a thing of it. We didn't even get into. Okay, so that's Thursday. Friday's Kent State Open. Lehigh has the Sheridan Invitational. Maryland at Pitt. Maryland versus Pitt. South Dakota State at Ryder. Maryland at Ryder. Pitt, South Dakota State will be fun. Oregon State, Utah Valley. That's Friday night. Saturday. Saturday starts Journeyman Collegiate Duals. But before we get into that, is there anything else? North Dakota State, West Virginia, Campbell, Wisconsin. That's all at the Knockout tournament in Florida. Okay, Journeyman or Collegiate Duals. Iowa State, Lock Haven, UNC, Ohio State, Iowa State, North Carolina, Lock Haven, Ohio State. That's all Saturday. Iowa State versus Ohio State. Give me that, boy.
When is that one?
That is at Collegiate Duals. That's at 7 p.m. It's at 7 p.m. on Saturday.
So it's the same time as Penn State, Missouri?
No, Penn State, Missouri is the next day.
Oh, that's right. It's Sunday.
So there's no crossover duels this year?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, because they're running one pool on Saturday and one pool on Sunday, so they're not crossing over, which is fine because the matchups are really good anyway. Iowa State, Ohio State is nails. But man, both teams have had kind of a carousel at some weights. Ohio State in the back half, and Iowa State kind of in the middle. Well, no, down low. It's going to be really interesting to see what personnel we have in that dual meet, but that's going to be one of the best duels of the year, in my opinion. Iowa State, Ohio State, that's nice. And speaking of carousel at certain weights, we're going to talk about Cornell in a second. Sunday is the next flight of Journeyman, but there's also Reno TOC that day with Cal Poly.
Ohio State, Iowa State would be a lot better without if the injuries weren't there on both sides. I mean, looking at so let's go through the lineup real quick. You got McCronin and Mesa at 25. You got Bouzakis and Frost at 33.
Great bout.
Mendez and Frost 41. Now at 49 starts the injuries because you got D'Amelio and Echemendia starters. Obviously, we're not going to see Echemendia. So who do you think Iowa State's going to put out?
Well, we saw Chittum. Here's what I'm hoping.
But Chittum would be up maybe. What do you think?
Here's what I'm hoping.
This is where they start the descent?
I'm hoping that Chittum's at 57 and Pinero's at 49.
So we get Pinero, D'Amelio at 49, and then maybe Patty Gallagher, Chittum at 57.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sammy Sasso, MJ at 65.
Yeah.
Now we would see Karchula, Riggins at 74. No Karchula.
Right.
Who do you think they'll put out?
Well, last week they used who'd they use last week? I think Hepner's hurt too. Last week they used Burden, who's a true freshman. They were just using him when getting his 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's one weight that's probably.
And then you got
missing a starter, but
Rogotsky Bachman at 84. And then you got Geog if he's back because he was out last week. Geog Christian Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would have Bastida Feldman, but Bastida's out. Feldman didn't wrestle either last week, so.
And it'd probably be Herrera. I'm telling that duel is going to be close. It doesn't matter. Even without Younger, even without Echemendia, that duel can be really close. That's going to be a fire duel, regardless. Yeah. And a dresser's going to try to win it. Like, he did everything in his power the other year to beat Cornell, which included moving Younger up and moving 2 guys up. So,
that'll be a great duel.
But NC State Cornell is also on Sunday, and typically that would be a bonkers duel. But Cornell has been missing so many guys; they still cannot have Julian and I believe not. I believe Julian and Foka can still not wrestle.
Not until January 1, I don't think, right?
Something like that. I don't know if it's when school is out or school starts back up.
I think it starts back up. I think it's when the second semester starts. That's when they can start. I believe I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I highly doubt we see them here. So They're going to be missing those guys. Who knows if they're missing Meyer? Who knows if they're missing Cornella? Who knows if they're missing Unger, who didn't wrestle at CKLB? So typically that would be a can't miss duel, but we'll see. Binghamton, Missouri, Little Rock, Penn State. That's Stephen Little against Josh Barr. That's Nasir Bailey against Braden Davis.
Nasir Bailey, by the way, who took a bad loss yesterday, and people were asking, is Bailey okay? Is he right? I think we'll find out. Number one, if he goes this weekend, he's all right. And number two, that makes the match with Braden Davis that much more interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's a big match. I mean, I can't wait for Braden Davis to win, and then you proclaim Braden Davis national champion. That'll be great.
No, I don't think no disrespect to Blake Borman, awesome win. He majored him 12-3 yesterday, but I think if Borman goes out there and majors Bailey and then Braden Davis goes out and beats Bailey, I think the narrative is what's wrong with Bailey. You know what I mean? I don't – it doesn't take away what Braden Davis did.
Yeah, I mean, if Nasir wins, right, you're probably like, okay, it was just a blip.
Yeah. So, but definitely that much more intriguing now.
Yeah.
And Barr and Little, I mean, that's going to be a great
Barr
one.
and Little. Right, Barr beats Beard. If Barr can beat his second AA, now you're talking. Josh Barr belongs in the podium conversation, like for sure.
And I will preface this.
And he probably already does, but.
And I'll preface this because the last couple of years I've said the same thing about all the teams that go. And I got a graphic I'm going to put out probably as soon as we're done here with Levi, Haines, and O'Toole, which we'll talk about in a minute. But when these guys are wrestling 3 duels, sometimes they don't wrestle all 3 duels. Yeah. Sometimes they wrestle 1, sometimes they wrestle 2, sometimes they go all 3. These schools are all wrestling 3 duels back to back. Sometimes you see guys wrestling in certain duels. I don't think anybody's necessarily ducking anybody, but if a match doesn't happen on a weekend like this where you have 3 duels in a row, I'm not surprised. I want to say you caught some flack for that last year because didn't Cornell sit almost everybody the next duel? Yeah, I can't remember what happened. I think it was I
hated it, and Cornell was not particularly happy with me, but we're still besties.
So I hope we see Little and Barr. I think both Little and Barr want it. If Bailey doesn't wrestle all 3 duels, if he's banged up or if something's wrong, I'm not surprised. No. So just a little preface there.
What, Barr will wrestle?
No, I don't think Barr won't wrestle. You never know. Sometimes with these duels, a coach has their guy maybe wrestle the 2 and the 7 or the 4 and the 7 or whatever.
Barr will wrestle both. Book it.
I don't disagree.
He'll wrestle both. Book it.
All 3. There's 3 duels.
Yeah, but the one is Binghamton.
So maybe he won't wrestle Binghamton and then wrestle.
Yeah. I mean, I think he'll wrestle all 3. Penn State doesn't sit their guys. Rarely. There's one other. Oh, Penn State, Missouri. Again, kind of like. Well, I don't want to say like NC State Cornell, but Missouri is a little down. B, missing some guys. They graduated a lot. There's some turnover. Elam's out. Certain retired, and so it'll still be a really good duel. And I don't think it might not be. I think Missouri will fight hard, right? I think it'll be a good test for Penn State with very little risk of upset.
And you do have arguably the match of the year with Levi, Haines, Keegan, O'Toole.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have a 1 versus 1. It's or 1 versus 2. That to me though,
those were the matches coming into the year, right? I mean, the biggest matchups were Starachi and Keckeisen and Levi O'Toole, right? We saw one, and hopefully we see the other one this weekend. I guess the other one would be mean, coming into the season, the three biggest what-if matches: Starachi, Keckeisen,
Yeah.
Levi, O'Toole, and probably Alirez Mendez, right? Probably be the biggest three.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think because you got Carter Parker, both won it last year. You got O'Toole, who took third, but previous to that, he was the NCAA champ. So you got Haines and O'Toole both coming up. Yeah. Why does Earl have O'Toole ranked above Levi? It doesn't matter. They'll wrestle each other this weekend and it will work itself out.
Higher weight. That's how I always do it too. Almost every time.
Because Keegan came up one weight and Levi came up two. I mean, they both came up.
Yeah, that's how I would do. I would have Keegan one too.
Again, it doesn't matter. Semantics. No. They literally wrestle this weekend, and one is going to be a very clear one for the rest of the year. Well, it'll be clear who. One of these guys can write their destiny for the rest of the year as the one. The other guy can't because they're not going to wrestle again. Unless crazy loss.
Unless somebody else knocks them off.
Correct. But if whoever wins this it's their one seed to lose for the rest of the year.
It's clear, right? Yep.
Yeah. So that'll definitely be a great duel. Now, Elam, I already talked to him. He's not back yet this weekend, so he won't go. And it's funny because I had Barr on the podcast yesterday, and we were talking about it. And as soon as we got done recording, we thought about the fact that it could be Aiden Sinclair. Who we talked about his matches with Aiden Sinclair. Sinclair 10-0'd him at the Open, and then Barr wins 2 straight at the World Team Trials. And then this weekend, we could see it.
And
again.
It was 10-0. It was 10-0 the first match. And then I think Sinclair had a lead to start the second. And then Barr just came back. And
now, I don't. And I actually, while talking to Barr in real time, I texted you. And we kind of thought real quick. He's already got 4 matches under his belt. He can only wrestle in one more duel until
Sinclair only has one more date.
Yep. And I don't know. I didn't ask Rocky when he thinks he's going to be back by. So I don't know what Missouri's going to do this weekend if they're going to have Sinclair get his 5th and final match in one of these 3 duels. I mean, it's not like it's a duel they can win. So I don't know what you kind of gain by putting Sinclair out for any of these.
Right, but maybe Sinclair – now, maybe the coaching staff wants to say, hey, we're going to save you for one more duel in which we need you to win the duel.
That's why I don't think that they'll –
or the staff could be saying, Rocky will be back soon. And Sinclair's like, I want a shot at this guy. He beat me at the trials,
It's definitely worth, that's the squeeze. That's one of the squeezes for the weekend when you're hoping for the best matches. Missouri, please put Sinclair out. Let's see Barr Sinclair again. Sinclair's an absolute stud, so it'd be fun to see that match.
It's interesting. Sinclair's an absolute stud, and I don't know. Things could always change, right? Like I say that about Gabe Arnold. Last year he was adamant he was a 74. I'm a 74. I'm a 74. I'm shouting, Gabe Arnold should start at 84, and Gabe replies, I'm a 74.
Didn't he tell you his height? He's like, Willie, I'm 5'5" or whatever it was.
Yeah. But I think things might have changed, and he's really an 84 now. And so the same could be said with Sinclair. Maybe he's a 97 now, but 3 months ago, I talked to Ben, and Ben said that Sinclair is going to be an 84 in college. And now things might have changed, but it could be a situation where this is probably he'll never see Barr again anyway. Maybe if if he goes 84 next year,
unless Barr goes 84 next year.
True.
Which
but that's another thing. That's another takeaway from the Barr beard match is everybody got on me for not putting Josh.
Oh, we brought that up on the show.
Did you?
I think so.
part of it is I didn't know where he fits because he's never wrestled those guys. Another part of it was like I talked to Josh before he's like go. I mean, I talk to Josh occasionally, right? Every couple months. Hey, how's it going, buddy? Um, Hung out with him at NCAs for a little bit when he was a senior in high school, I think. But like going into last year, he was like, "Yeah, 74. I'm going 74. I'm going to wrestle 74." And so, like, part of me was like, he was a 74 last year. He's going to be a 97 this year with all these seniors, right? I just didn't know where he fit. So what I'm taking a long route to get to is Josh against Beard looked every bit the part of 97.
I told Josh on the podcast, I'm like, it reminds me of Bo Nickel in the sense of Bo never really fully looked like his weight. He always kind of looked like a lot of times a smaller guy. You know, him wrestling Gabe Dean. You know, these guys at that weight who you get are like such a physical specimen. And Barr might just be one of those tall, skinny kids who looks smaller, number one, than he is. And number two, he might just have that look like Bo, I think, very much did.
Yeah.
Especially up at 97.
Yep. Well, that's the week, my friend.
Yeah, that's the weekend. I'm trying to think. Next week is, I think, going to be a very light week because Christmas is already next week, which is crazy.
We should do a show next week, regardless, where we drink like spiked cider, like hot spiked cider.
How about just eggnog?
We got to do. Well, here's even if it's a light week next week. I haven't looked. I haven't looked at what's coming up. Even if it's a light week, we got to do a recap show.
Yeah, we got Spencer Lee, David Carr, McKenna competing internationally this weekend. We've got the Collegiate Duals. We've got Okie State, Virginia Tech. There's a lot of fun things happening.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's the show. Go like, subscribe, Mugu, everything. I'm gonna go grill a steak.